K2, a mountain that stands taller than almost every other peak on Earth and deadlier than them all. It rises more than 28,000 feet above sea level, straddling the border between Pakistan and China. Climbers call it the Savage Mountain because even the strongest, most skilled mountaineers have died trying to conquer it. For every four who reach its summit, one never comes back. But in 2013, a father and son, Marty Schmidt and his 25-year-old son Denali, believed they could be among the few who made it to the top. They had the experience, the passion, and above all, the unbreakable bond that only a father and son could share. What they didn't know was that the mountain had already decided otherwise. Marty Schmidt was no ordinary climber. Born in the United States but raised in New Zealand, he was known across the climbing world as one of the most fearless and skilled mountaineers alive. He had summited Everest. He had guided others across the deadliest slopes on Earth. He had spent his entire life chasing the feeling that only the high mountains could give him, a mix of peace, danger, and freedom. His son Denali grew up watching him. He was named after the tallest mountain in North America, a symbol of adventure from the very beginning. Denali wasn't just following in his father's footsteps, he was walking beside him. To him, climbing with his father wasn't about fame or danger. It was about connection. It was about being together in a world where few dared to go. In the summer of 2013, Marty and Denali joined an international expedition headed for K2. It was Marty's third attempt on the mountain. He had tried twice before and been turned back both times by bad weather. This time, he was determined to succeed. For him, this wasn't just another climb. It was a personal mission, the dream of a lifetime. The team began their ascent in July. At first, the weather was stable, and the climb went as planned. They reached Camp 1, then Camp 2, both dangerously high, but manageable for experienced climbers. Everyone knew that K2 was unpredictable. The weather could change in minutes, and the smallest mistake could mean death. As they prepared to move higher, signs of trouble began to appear. The snow was getting deeper. Avalanches were starting to occur around the slopes. Even seasoned Sherpas began to worry. They warned everyone, the snowpack is unstable. Camp 3 is too dangerous. Most of the teams listened. They decided to wait for better weather or turn back entirely. But Marty didn't. He believed that he and Denali could push just a little higher, just to check the conditions. He told others, we'll go up to Camp 3. If it's too bad, we'll come down. No one doubted his skill, but everyone feared for his safety. One climber later said, when Marty left Camp 2, we all had a bad feeling. The mountain was rumbling. On July 26, Marty and Denali began climbing toward Camp 3. Just the two of them. The weather had turned. The wind was howling. The snow was soft and unstable, the kind that can slide without warning. But Marty pressed on, step by step, as Denali followed behind. They reached Camp 3 at about 24,000 feet, an altitude where oxygen is scarce and even breathing feels like a fight. They set up their tent and radioed base camp. Marty's voice came through the static. We made it to Camp 3. All good here. It was the last time anyone ever heard from them. That night, while the rest of the mountain slept under a silent blizzard, the snow above Camp 3 began to shift. First, a low rumble. Then in an instant, the entire slope gave way. A massive avalanche tore through Camp 3, carrying ice, snow, and rock at terrifying speed. It crushed everything in its path, including the small yellow tent where Marty and Denali were sleeping. At base camp, no one knew what had happened. The radio went silent. The next morning, other climbers tried to contact Marty, but there was no reply. Days passed. When the weather finally cleared, a small rescue team went up. When they reached Camp 3, they found devastation. The area was completely buried. Shreds of tents, broken poles, and pieces of climbing gear were scattered across the snow. Among them were Marty and Denali's ice axes and crampons, but there was no sign of their bodies. Everyone knew what that meant. They were gone. News of their disappearance spread across the world. For the mountaineering community, it was a heartbreaking loss. Marty wasn't just a climber. He was a mentor, a guide, a man who had inspired countless others to chase their dreams. And Denali, young, creative, full of promise, had been his father's pride. They had shared everything, even their final moments. Experts later confirmed what many already suspected. The avalanche that night was enormous. Even if they had been awake, there was nothing they could have done. At that altitude with so little oxygen and so much weight of snow above them, survival was impossible. People asked why they kept climbing when everyone else turned back. Some said it was arrogance. Others said it was courage. But those who knew Marty best said it was something deeper. For Marty, mountains weren't just places to conquer, they were part of who he was. And for Denali, being beside his father was everything. It wasn't just about reaching the top. It was about sharing the journey no matter how dangerous. Their story is tragic, but it also carries a lesson. Even the strongest humans are small before nature. The mountain doesn't care how skilled, brave, or determined you are. On K2, one wrong decision, or just one unlucky moment, can end everything. Weeks later, the snow at Camp 3 settled. The mountain went quiet again, hiding the traces of what had happened. But for those who knew Marty and Denali, the silence was unbearable. Their friends held a small ceremony at base camp. Flags were raised, prayers were said, and as the wind howled across K2's icy ridges, people whispered the same words again and again. Rest in peace, Marty and Denali. Today, their story remains a reminder of both love and loss. It's the story of a father and son who dared to follow their dream to the edge of the world and beyond. It's about the beauty and danger of human ambition, about the bond that can drive two souls to climb higher than most ever dare. They never made it to the top of K2, but in their courage, in their love, and in their final climb together, they reached a height that few will ever understand. This was the true story of Marty Schmidt and his son Denali. Two hearts bound by the mountains, lost to the savage peak, but never forgotten.